My family has been repetitively denied. I understand Travis Bloom is an idiot. I understand that, fully understand that. He holds a good heart.
Fabricating fictitious government you ever seen.
My little brother used to run to Mother and say, "Mom, BB hit me." BB was my sister. He used to say, "BB hit me." Mom would say, "Well, my lovely young man, where are the marks to prove such?" Well, Mom, show me the marks. He could not show any marks. Mother would say, "I can't tell where the marks are." True story.
And the evidence is going to show that law enforcement tampered with evidence to meet their such high burden of proof.
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't care.
You wouldn't have cared?
No.
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
No.
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
Probably did. Everybody has.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Said I-
Everybody has.
Oh, okay.
Hey everyone, and I told you we would be going live in a little bit, but court came back, and I thought, let's do it to it, and just let's get started. But before we get started, thank you, Tracy Dane, for becoming a member, and good afternoon, Carol Sue, and good evening, Bad Desert. We're back. This is definitely when we learn how she did it to herself. Again, no evidence has been presented so far he did anything. He just saw a tank that was open and he shot it. Hello, Malin. No, this is from 2 hours ago. But this is the first witness back. It took them like 10 minutes to do the other case.
Good afternoon. Can you please state your full name and spell it for the record?
Dale Sharp, it's D-A-L-E-S-H-A-R-P.
Where were you employed in April of 2021?
Lenawee County Sheriff's Department.
And are you still with the Lenawee County Sheriff's Department?
That's correct.
What is your title?
Detective.
How long have you been a detective?
16 years.
How long have you worked at the Sheriff's Department in total?
26 years.
Prior to April of 2021, did you know Dee Warner?
Yes.
And how did you know her?
Previous law enforcement contact when I was in uniform.
All right. So how long prior to 2021 would that have been?
Good 10 years or so.
Okay. What about Dale Warner? Did you know him prior to April of 2021?
Yes, I did.
How did you know him?
Went to school with him.
Were you involved in this case?
Yes.
How were you involved?
I assisted Detective Greco with search warrants, interviewing people, what else, photographing stuff and so forth.
Were you part of a search warrant that was executed April 27th, 2021?
Yes, I was.
Who did you go to the residence with?
Detective Greco.
What was his role?
He was the lead investigator on it.
What does that mean?
He was in charge of the search warrant and what was going on that day.
So have you ever executed a search warrant as a detective with the Lenawee County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, I have.
And how many approximately do you think you've executed?
Several. 10 or more, at least.
And as the lead detective, what types of things would you be in charge of?
Of the scene and what evidence is going to be collected, determining how the
I'll check it later.
search warrant is going to be executed. Steps that are
I've kind of put social media a little bit on the down low to kind of focus on streaming.
going to be taken. Make sure the scene is secure. No one can come or go from the scene.
Okay, and so
And he'd be the person that you would ask for. You'd go to that person if you had something. Hey, this might be of interest, and he would help you make, or he would make the determination if that was of interest or not.
all right. So you discussed securing the scene. What does that mean?
Not letting anyone come or go from the scene. It'd be taken off, or we'd have law enforcement around to try to secure a perimeter.
What happens if somebody's already on the scene?
They would stay there.
Did that happen in this case on April 27th, 2021?
No, it did not.
Okay. What time approximately did you get to the property?
I would say 8:30 or so.
Did you yourself have a body camera on at that time?
No, I did not.
All right. What was your role supposed to be that night?
My role that night was to photograph the buildings and such.
When you arrived at the Munger residence, who was there?
Detective Greco was there. And when I arrived there, I believe Jaron was there.
All right. And who's Jaron?
The son to Dale. And
What's the first thing that Detective Greco does when you arrive on the scene?
he makes contact with two young females at the house.
Do you know if he's on the phone at this point in time?
It appears he is, but I don't know who he's on the phone with.
Did Detective Greco have on a body cam?
Yes.
I'm going to show you People's Exhibit 214.
Hey, Mary B. I don't know if he's the lead detective. They haven't.
So they, I don't think this is my dad wants to talk to you. My partner did type up a search warrant. We do have that. I'm standing here with both your daughters at the front door. I'm sorry, side door. And I'll explain everything to you. We do. It is for the dogs, the drone thing. So basically, we saw earlier. As of right now, we're not going in your house. You know, we already went through there. So it's just a matter of the dogs just completely. Let's see. My recorder's going right now. It was, of course, it's going right now, so the whole thing will be recorded. If you want to come home, you come home. You absolutely can. If you don't want to come home, you don't need to. As far as what we're going to do. What is it? Yeah, drones. That's exactly it. Yeah, the dogs. One dog's here already. The other dog is about 20 minutes out. I just wanted to tell you, obviously, you're not here. And just like keep you updated. I'm not trying to hide anything from you, but if you come to the problem officer said we come tomorrow, that in the event there's something suspicious or someone doing some bull crap activity, then how can we say anything? This will shut up the other side of the family. You get that? Well, no, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. You're 100% right. It will not shut up the other family. But at least I've done it. But I've done everything I can at that point. And you, yep, and we will there's paperwork on that, so we will drop. If you're home by then, and it's going to take a little while. Yeah, well, over an hour, I'm sure. If you're home, you're home. I can give you the paperwork. If you're not home, I can leave it with your daughter. And that's it. If you got any questions, I'll have my phone on the whole time, so just give me a holler, okay? All right, thanks. Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You see this where I've got the body camera paused?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and who is that?
That is me on the right with the sheriff bulletproof vest on, and Jaron's to my left.
All right,
To the left, I'm sorry.
and at this time, are you guys talking about anything?
Just simple talk. I bring up, I mentioned to him I had been out to the house before, and we were talking about the remodel work, and I was impressed with what they did, change it from an old farmhouse to what it was now.
Okay. And Detective Greco comes down. Does Detective Greco come down and have a conversation with you or Jaron?
With Jaron mainly.
Are you a family member or just okay with him? Who's Dale? Okay. Get rid of this stuff. Good. Yep.
What's happening?
And where are you located at after Detective Greco places his body camera inside his vehicle?
I would say somewhere near the rear of his vehicle.
When one of Denmark's sports teams win at the Olympics, does the Prime Minister invite them for celebrations? And if so, do they show up? We don't have that weird thing that you have in America where you have to have a position on politicians in every other profession, one of them being a YouTuber. In Denmark, if you win a medal, you will most likely be invited. If it's like you handball, we just won the Euro Cup, you will be invited to the city hall in Copenhagen because there's a big square outside where people can gather and celebrate you. And different politicians, and in Copenhagen they have multiple mayors, and then they have the supreme mayor, and they will then be the ones who do the outreach. Normally, if we play in a final, our royal house will be represented, and either the Minister of Sports or the Prime Minister, depending on how good the PR are. So when we just won silver in speed skating, no one knew about it because we didn't even know we had a speed skater, but now everyone loves him. But normally, if you have Caroline Wozniacki, when she played in finals, there would be someone going to that. When we play in the football tournaments or the handball tournaments, politicians will go there, and then we'll have a people celebration. We don't do that thing where we seclude it. We'll do a big public, kind of like when you do your parades, but we'll just do them in Copenhagen because our national teams are built from all around the country. They play all around Europe. So you have that day, and people will show up to the central square in Copenhagen and celebrate. But we don't have that thing that you have in America where you must hate or you must love the one who is your candidate. We don't give a crap about politicians. We hate all of them, no matter how red or how blue they are. We just hate them all. And then we'll vote for them again the next time and expect that they are doing something differently. But we don't have this highly polarized crap fest that you have in America where, and it probably started around Bush 1, where you must hate the other side. It's, in my opinion, absolutely ridiculous. I don't see why you can sit and fight in my chat over if you like Trump or you don't like Trump. Who cares? He's not going to watch my show anyway. It's wasted energy on everyone's part. So, no, if we do a celebration, they will fly home. We'll send a few fighter jets up and bring the plane in so they get like a royal salute. Then the people will celebrate. Politicians doesn't matter. They don't care about you. Stop caring about them. And whether or not you're going to go to the White House or not because, oh, I can't be seen with this idiot. It doesn't matter if it's Biden or Trump. It doesn't matter. Stop letting all of this fill so much in your life. They don't give a shit about you. Stop hating your neighbor because they have the different team on their plate. They only want you divided because then you don't demand anything from them. So no, we don't invite. They might go to like a reception at the National Parliament. But normally, the big celebration, Town Square in Copenhagen, there's a big balcony, they will come out, and there'll be 100,000 people outside screaming and yelling. And it'll be wonderful because they did it for the nation. They didn't do it for the politicians. So we don't have them going to the White House or our equivalent of that. We have, it's called Marienborg. That's where our prime minister has her official residence. She lives in her own house. She doesn't live there. But we don't do that because we don't care. When I go to town on a Saturday, I can meet my local politician out shopping. I've drank beer with the last 3 or 4 prime ministers in Denmark when I was in politics. It's not that important. Your life isn't that important. And if some sports team wants to virtual signal, it doesn't matter. And if someone wants to yell at them for not virtual signaling, it doesn't matter. Your life will not be changed. Stop giving all of these politician idiots power. They don't care about you. So why care about them?
Near mine.
Okay, and who's standing there with you?
Officer Taff or K9 handler.
I don't know if
Taff,
you send it to the
MSP.
correct. I
Is there
don't
anybody
see
else
anything
standing there
on my
with you?
Insta.
Not that I recall.
Okay, were you standing near Detective Greca and Jaron?
Yes, I was close enough where I could hear the conversation.
All right. At some point, does Detective Greca ask Jaron if he knows when his dad will be back?
Yes.
All right, and do you know what his response is?
Objection, hearsay.
I'll withdraw the question.
I had a local politician who was my math teacher. I couldn't
I'm
stand
going to show
him.
you
He was a commie.
people's
What are we going to see?
Exhibit 81.
Yes, this come from a former politician. I hated all of that. Crappy
Is that just a
crap.
still shot from that body camera on 427?
Yes, ma'am.
And the timestamp in the corner is military time, I'm assuming,
Yes.
and it's 20:42:01.
Yes.
That's 8042.
So whose vehicle are you directly in front of in that photograph?
Detective Greca's.
After you speak with Jaron and Detective Greca, what do you do next?
After Kevin finishes his conversation with Jaron, he mentions to me that I should probably start at the mailbox taking photos.
Okay, and who
Kevin says
Okay.
that to me, Detective Greca.
and did you do that?
That's correct.
All right. After, I want you to go ahead and go to that map and show me where the mailbox is on that map. 263. Oh, there's a, if you look on the stand, yes, use the pointer, please.
Thank you. I would say it's approximately right here.
Okay. That will extend if you pull it out.
Okay. I'm new at this. I apologize. How about right there?
From the mailbox, where did you go take pictures next?
I proceed east along Munger. So I take pictures of the front of the house, and continue on, taking pictures to capture.
Are you new here?
What I could see from the roadway. And then proceeded on, taking pictures of this building, in front of the building, walked up and took kind of a close-up, if you want to call it that.
I'm going to stop
Sorry.
you real quick. Did you, when you said you took pictures, are you talking just the front of the building or inside?
Just the front of it.
Okay, go ahead.
Exterior pictures.
Okay, go ahead.
So as I'm walking east, I am taking exterior pictures. Okay, continue on. I want to say this is the area, like the front of their business, Warrant or whatever. That's what it's called. So I kind of get off the roadway or get close enough where I could capture that picture, showing the sign indicating that's the business area or the office area. Then I proceed up this way. I start taking pictures. I start taking pictures of this, like turning cakes in it. So you can see, I think that's a tank. I can't recall or remember without looking at a picture. And I continue on taking more pictures. Then I proceed this way, like I said. So once I get out in here, I take a picture this way.
Picture
this way,
face, I couldn't tell.
That way. I got 360 degrees. I'm taking pictures.
Are you new here?
Then I proceed over to here, to building 7.
How would I know he had an OnlyFans account?
Taking pictures of the exterior.
I have enough doing my own.
Take pictures of the interior of the building.
Okay, I'm going to show you people's exhibit 174. What building is that?
Building 7. That's me standing somewhere out in here taking a picture inside.
Okay, so this was your photograph that you took on April
Correct.
27th?
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Sorry.
And did you walk inside that building?
Yes, I did.
People's Exhibit 175. What is
That's
that?
inside. That would be me inside this building on this corner, shooting towards. So if I was standing over in that corner, I'd be shooting the picture towards that corner.
Okay, so you were standing at the east side of the building.
Corner, southeast corner.
Okay. And we see a tank in this photograph, and it
Correct.
looks like it has an 8 on that.
Correct.
Okay, and do you remember that tank in that building?
Yes.
All right. People's Exhibit 176. What is this?
So same, but now I'm walking. You know, I'm a visual guy. Sorry, I apologize. So if I'm at this corner, I'm walking along that wall to that point. Now I'm taking a picture back to where I initially was standing.
Okay, so just the opposite end of that spray burn.
Yes. So that'd be the northeast corner.
People's,
So that'd be like right there,
all right.
that corner.
People's 177.
So then that'd be me. Yeah, that'd be. For some reason, it looks like I made a. Yeah, I'm taking another picture. So yeah, I come down to this corner and take this one.
Okay. And again, that's your photograph from April 27th,
Correct.
2021, correct?
Yes.
People's Exhibit 178. Is that also your photograph?
Yes.
All right.
So now I am standing, like, remember that big bay door that was open? So I'm standing like right there shooting towards the west along that wall to capture that entry door from the outside and the stuff that you really can't see from the corner that I shoot from. The picture from.
At some point in time while you're taking photographs, do you make contact with Dale Warner?
Yes, I do.
All right. Tell me about it.
So while I'm taking pictures, Dale is moving a tank. I don't know where the tank is coming from. It's an anhydrous tank, and he puts it in that building.
Okay. And then what does he do?
Then he takes another tank out.
Do you know-
Another anhydrous tank.
Do you know where he put that anhydrous tank that he took out?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Did you notify anybody of this?
Yes.
Okay. Who did you tell?
Detective Greca.
When you were given the task of taking photos, were you also given any other direction?
We were directed besides, no, the only other task or direction I was given is we're told to allow Dale to operate the farm and not interfere with him operating his business at the farm.
When was the last time you had anything to do on the Warner case?
I think when the state police came and got the stuff, I would say, I can't tell you exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
You're welcome.
Detective Sharp, good afternoon. How are you?
Good, ma'am. How are you doing this
Good,
afternoon?
thank
You're
you.
very welcome.
So I represent Mr. Warner, and I have just a few questions for you this afternoon. When you were assigned to the case with Detective Greca, were you the lead, was he the lead, or were you peers?
He was the lead.
He was the lead.
Correct.
Is that the norm, that there's a lead investigator on a case or a lead detective, and then the other people assist where needed?
That's correct.
And you worked on the case with Detective Greca from roughly April, towards the end of April 2021 through when the Michigan State Police took over?
I think when they formed a task force.
Were you involved with the task force?
No, I was not.
Okay, so when the task force came to be, and that was the Lenawee County Sheriff's Department, Michigan State Police, and the FBI?
Yeah, I believe so.
And so once that came to pass, you stepped back?
Correct.
And you worked at the direction of Detective Greca?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that you had had prior contact with Dee Warner. And do you recall why that was?
I believe it was a verbal domestic.
Objection, relevance.
Oh, let me clarify. It did not involve Mr. Warner, correct?
They weren't. I believe they weren't married at the time.
Okay. It was Ms. Warner and another person?
Or minor child.
Okay. So I just want to clarify that. So the issue was Ms. Warner and another family member, not Mr. Warner.
Correct.
Thank you. And when you were talking about April 27th, 2021, I want to make sure I understand. So you were photographing Building 7. We've heard that called all kinds of different things, the spray barn, the load barn, but that's what you were photographing, correct?
Correct.
And you were inside the building.
Correct.
And Mr. Warner came in with a machine and put a tank in there, or came in with a vehicle and put a tank in there?
He either came, either as I was exiting the building, we had contact somewhere near that building.
Thank you,
either
Kirsten.
inside or outside. I can't recall.
Yes, and
which
there's
one.
a
Sure.
Token
So
keeper
either
on
inside Building
G7's
7 or right out front of Building 7?
triplet.
Correct.
So he came in with that tank and you were roughly in that vicinity, correct? And you communicated with him?
Yes.
And then he moved it sounds like the rusty tank that was in there, and you're saying he removed that?
He removed the tank. Yes.
Thank you. And then one final sort of little series of questions. You did a number of different things on this case, not just the things that you spoke about here in court today, correct?
Correct.
You were involved in interviews, right?
Yes.
Lots of other searches, things like that.
Mhm.
You have to say yes or no
Yes.
for the record. Everybody does that. Everybody does that. One of the other things that you did was you photographed text messages that Ms. Warner had received and also sent to Terry Nayrink, and that's Terry Nayrink. Is
Yes.
that accurate?
Terry Nayrink. Yes.
And then you also photographed text messages received and sent to Terry Nayrink, Terry, correct?
Husband and wife. Yes.
And that was Terry with the Y. He had been an employee of Ms. Warner's, correct?
Correct.
And then Terry with an I had been his wife, possibly ex-wife at the time.
I think current wife.
Current wife. Okay. Thank you so much. No additional questions.
You're welcome.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. You are we excusing Detective Sherrill?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm an MC?
Oh, they have a gnome. Yes, Terry and Terry got married, and she was mad at Terry because he was afraid
Just tell us
he was
your name
having an affair.
Justin Schmidt,
and spell it for the record.
Justinschmidt.
Okay. And Mr. Schmidt, what do you do for a living?
I am an educator, and I am also a welding engineer for JCS Welding Services.
And you say you're in education. What kind of educational job do you have?
I have taught welding and welding-related courses for both secondary and post-secondary institutions since about 2010.
Is your education also in welding?
It is. My formal education is from Ferris State University in welding engineering technology, and I have graduate courses in career and technical education through Western Michigan University.
In what years were those degrees?
The welding engineering degree was in 2005, and my studies at Western, I believe, concluded in about 2014.
Okay. And had you been welding even before going into it professionally or going for education?
Yes. I think I first started welding when I was about 12.
Okay. What kind of credentials do you have that relate to welding?
I am a certified welding inspector, CWI, carry that credential, a certified welding educator. I'm also a certified welding inspector for Crown Castle, which is for cell towers.
Okay. And so you go around inspecting and get paid for it?
That's correct.
Okay. And then do you actually teach welding also?
I do. My 9-to-5 job is in education, both secondary and post-secondary.
All right, and let's talk about secondary education. What are you doing in secondary education that relates to welding?
I teach the welding technology program at the LISD Tech Center.
And approximately how many students do you have?
40.
And were some of those students recently in a competition?
They were.
And how did they do?
They did very well. We went through the Skills USA regional competition in Lansing last week, and 6 of the students that we took, 6 out of 15, placed well enough to go on to state competition in April.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What about post-secondary?
Post-secondary, I teach for Jackson College, again, welding and welding-related courses, and have done so since 2012.
And back to that competition that your students were just in, had you been a judge at any point in that competition or one like it?
Yes, actually, I was a judge for the state finals prior to my students being involved with Skills USA.
Okay. And at the secondary level, can you explain the facility that you teach in?
It is an educational facility. It has both a classroom for theory portion of class and a large laboratory with various pieces of welding equipment, fabrication equipment, automation equipment, that sort of thing.
Okay. So full-time teaching welding, and then part-time you got your own business that you do welding inspections and certifications.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. And can you certify others as certified welders?
Yes, as a CWI, that gives you the credentialing to be able to do that, qualify the individual for a certified welding process.
Okay. I tender Mr. Schmidt as an expert in the inspection, certification, fabrication, and testing of welding, welders and welding.
We'll leave that to the discretion of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. How did you get involved with this?
In Denmark, we have a competition called Skills, where they'll bring in bakers, carpenters, bricklayers, whatever, once a year, and have the skills competition to kind of give these students a little something to strive for, and that's actually, I think that's pretty cool. We actually also, well, we used to have a national team in baking, because I was contacted when I left, I think like a year after I left baking school, or after I got my diploma. They reached out to me and say, hey, do you want to take part in this? And I said, well, I don't work as a baker, but if you can lend me a bakery, I'll do it. So they found someone else.
Case.
I was contacted by the Michigan State Police and asked to do an inspection on a vessel.
Okay. And showing you what's been entered as People's 100. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what is that?
That is an anhydrous.
I don't have any
a running gear.
Okay.
on either.
And number 34, correct?
Correct.
Is that the one you inspected?
It is.
Okay. How many times?
4 times total.
And what did you do each
I don't
time?
see any
Just in general speaking.
requests.
The first time went and looked at basically all the welding on the tank. And the second time went back and looked at the inside. A repair weld was seen from the first inspection. Went back the second time and looked at the inside of the tank where the repair weld was. Came back the third time to look at another portion of the tank. And again, a fourth time to compare photos with the actual tank.
So you indicated a second ago that there was an obvious repair weld. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. And in terms of this photo, do you know where the obvious repair weld was?
The repair weld would be in the rear, far left side in this photo of the tank.
Okay. Where I've blown it up?
Correct.
Okay. And then the very first time you saw the tank, was it in this condition or something else?
The very first time I seen it, it was on the running gear like that, but the right-hand side, the domed portion of the tank, the end cap, had been removed.
Okay. So this front end?
Correct.
Okay. How did you determine that the back weld was an obvious repair weld?
Based on there's 3 welds on the tank, 3 factory welds when it's manufactured, 1 in the center and 1 on each end adhering the domes to the tank. Comparing the weld at the rear of the tank that was still there with the weld in the center of the tank that was a factory weld, along with visibly looking at the repair weld itself, where you could still see remnants of the factory weld underneath it.
Okay. Let me show you what's been entered as People's 269. Did you take this photograph?
I did.
Okay. And why? What is it showing?
This photograph shows the approximate width from toe to toe of the factory weld.
And which factory weld are you looking at?
This is a weld in the center of the tank.
And I don't know, for the jury's benefit, can you read what the width is?
0.811.
And that's in what unit?
In inches.
Okay. That's People's 270. That also says 801. Is that a different place?
That is a different spot, correct?
Okay. And again, People's 271, 801, different place?
Correct.
Okay, so did you go, how many readings did you take of the middle weld, do you think?
I would say probably 10 to 12 readings around.
Okay, and were they all fairly consistent?
They were.
All right. Showing you what's 272. Can you read the gauge in this photo?
0.546 inches.
Okay, and which weld is that?
This is the repair weld.
Okay. Do you think that difference in 0.3 of an inch is significant?
It is. Yes.
And how many readings approximately did you take of the repair weld?
Again, probably the same 10 to 12.
All right, and were they all about a little over half an inch?
They varied. I would say within 180 thousandths probably.
Okay. Could you tell what process had been used to create the repair weld?
I could.
How?
Based on the weld bead itself of the repair weld, the bead profile, the ripple pattern that was in it, and then the distance in between starts and stops.
Okay, and let's start with that last one. What does that tell us, the difference between starts and stops?
So the distance between the starts and stops, if it is a greater distance, would limit us to what process could be used. It would have to be a process that continuously fed a wire electrode, a process similar that could be used, such as like a stick welding operation or shielded metal arc welding. You're limited on how far you can actually weld because your electrode is only so long before you have to change it and restart again.
So is this a difference between welding with a piece of metal that's however long a foot or whatever it is versus a continuous spool of wire?
That's correct.
Okay, and which one is this?
This would be the spool of wire.
And do you remember what the longest distance between any of the stops and starts was?
The longest I measured in between starts and stops was 16 inches.
Okay, and could you go 16 inches with a quote unquote stick welder?
You could not.
And do you remember how many starts and stops there were in total around the circumference of that repair weld?
I identified 11 starts and stops.
Could you tell anything? Well, so based on that, again, remind us, what kind of a welder are we talking about?
So we're talking about a gas metal arc welding process, also commonly referred to as MIG welding or wire welding.
Okay. And could you tell anything about the welding machine itself based on the repair weld that you inspected?
Based on the size and the profile of the welds, and then again, the distance between starts and stops, we could determine that it was a larger machine, something you would not classify as a hobby machine. Most likely to.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
As the times?
That's correct.
What is it?
Between the starts and stops, if it is a greater distance, would limit us to what process could be used. It would have to be a process that continuously fed a wire electrode, a process similar that could be used, such as like a stick welding operation or shielded metal arc welding. You're limited on how far you can actually weld because your electrode is only so long before you have to change it and restart again.
So is this a difference between welding with a piece of metal that's however long a foot or whatever it is versus a continuous spool of wire?
That's correct.
Okay, and which one is this?
This would be the spool of wire.
And do you remember what the longest distance between any of the stops and starts was?
The longest I measured in between starts and stops was 16 inches.
Okay, and could you go 16 inches with a quote unquote stick welder?
You could not.
And do you remember how many starts and stops there were in total around the circumference of that repair weld?
I identified 11 starts and stops.
Could you tell anything? Well, so based on that, again, remind us, what kind of a welder are we talking about?
So we're talking about a gas metal arc welding process, also commonly referred to as MIG welding or wire welding.
Okay. And could you tell anything about the welding machine itself based on the repair weld that you inspected?
Based on the size and the profile of the welds, and then again, the distance between starts and stops, we could determine that it was a larger machine, something you would not classify as a hobby machine. Most likely 220 volts and a duty cycle greater of 40%.
Showing you People's 293. Are you familiar with that machine?
I am.
How are you familiar with that?
I have spent many hours operating that exact model of machine before.
Okay. This isn't yours in particular.
No, it's not.
Okay, but you've used this many times?
That's correct.
What is it?
That is a Miller manufacturer, Miller brand, Miller-Matic model 252.
Okay, and do you know, does that meet the specs that you just described in terms of what kind of welder would have made that repair weld?
It does.
When you say the profile and the, what's the other term you used? Of the weld, I'm sorry, the profile and
the profile, the ripple pattern, and then the distance between starch and stop.
Okay. I want to make sure I had that right. Could you tell if this weld was done by hand or a machine?
I could.
How could you tell that?
Basically, whenever I examined the weld, it was evident that there was a lot of inconsistencies in the weld itself, both profile-wise, direction, path of travel, a lot of inconsistent parts in the height of the reinforcement. Those inconsistencies would lead to a determination of human error, essentially, and not an automated process.
Okay, showing you People's 273. Does this illustrate some of those things?
It does.
Can you tell us how?
So it's a little hard to see probably as small as this picture is, but there is spatter in this picture, which is a defect that we can see. There is what we would consider concavity in the center of the bead.
Let me stop you on spatter. Can you describe from the picture what we should look for when we're looking for spatter?
Your spatter is going to be the small, they look like kind of like BBs on the outside of the weld.
Okay, is that spatter right there?
Correct.
Okay, and then there's some more down here.
Correct.
Down here farther. Is all that spatter?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, what was the second thing?
The other thing is concavity within the bead. We can see that it is a concave shape in spots and not concave in other spots, which would lead us to believe that the travel speed varied a little bit as it went across. Okay. Also, the general width of the bead being narrower in spots and wider in spots is also indicative of that.
Okay.
A little bit further down in the same photo. Yeah, you can see where we had a large variation in the path of travel for the speed.
Okay, and describe that, what you're talking about, the path of travel?
So we can see as the weld comes down from the top of the screen to about the center, we can see it run off to the left-hand side, off of essentially where we would assume the joint is behind that, and then pick back up underneath after a start and stop, and then resume moving forward further down.
Okay, so are you indicating that the path of travel comes down like this and then goes off to the left?
That's correct.
Okay. Whereas the bead continues on straight down here.
Correct.
Okay. Showing you 274. That did give us some idea of the scale that we're talking about with that when the path of travel ran off?
It does, yes.
Okay. Does 275 tell us anything else about the weld?
Again, general discontinuities located within the weld and for lack of better terms, a sloppy appearance.
Okay, so it wasn't just one spot, it was multiple spots that you identified?
Correct.
So as an inspector, how would you evaluate this weld that you saw?
As an inspector, to do a formal inspection, it would have to adhere to a specific welding code. And there is no welding codes that I have worked with that this would be acceptable in.
So were you able to form an opinion about the level of skill and or training of the person who did this weld?
I did.
What was your opinion?
My opinion was that it was somebody who had prior welding experience, so they were somewhat familiar with the process, but did not identify as having maybe formal weld training at the time that this was produced.
Are you able to tell the difference between somebody who is not highly skilled and someone who is in a rush?
That's a pretty broad question. To answer that, if you were in a rush and you had a high level of training, or we'll say a medium to high level of training, that rush job would definitely impact your final product.
Okay. What if you had a medium amount of training? What would a rush do at that point?
That would definitely affect it even more so.
Okay. It would be worse?
Correct.
Okay. showing you 276, and specifically looking at the bottom of this photograph. Can you explain what
Jinxie
that is?
Boo.
That's an
Been a
indication
while.
of a weld discontinuity that was then ground down to improve the appearance and shape.
Okay. And what would be used to grind it down?
Typically, you would use an angle grinder with an abrasive wheel.
And just looking at people's 50 in the left hand, is that relevant to what you just testified to?
That would be an abrasive wheel that would be applicable to an angle grinder, correct?
Okay. And that would be something you could use to grind down a high spot in a weld?
Yes.
Now Jinxie Poo is here. I'm going to jinx it. How is this set for 9 weeks of trial? This is insane. They have, unless we're going to go into finance, how? I know Jemima. Now she's going to yell at me again. You jinx it every time.
Could you tell the path of travel in terms of which way the weld was formed from top to bottom or around the tank, or how?
Yes, I could.
And what was your finding on that?
That it was done in the vertical down position.
Okay. And so with the starting from the top to the bottom, and then top to bottom on the other side?
Correct.
Okay. And what did you see that told you that?
There was a couple different things that I noticed to make that determination. One was the amount of buildup on the horizontal portion or the top of the weld before it transitioned to vertical, where it then became less buildup and slightly concave.
Okay, so I'm showing you 277. Is that in this picture?
It is.
Okay, where?
And it's kind of hard to see from this picture, but at the top, there is much more weld reinforcement at the top of the weld,
Okay.
where gravity is not having as much of an effect on the weld. It's actually putting it right where you're trying to make the weld. And then as we get further down, we transition into the vertical portion of the weld. We can see that it gets more concave as gravity essentially works against us and tries to pull the weld down.
But again, the finances has no bearing on this case.
We can also see a distinct ripple pattern in that transition that indicates also a vertical down weld.
Okay, so we're looking at these arrows.
This is a professional welder.
Yes.
And how does that tell us anything?
So on a vertical down weld, you have to move faster than you do, say, in a vertical up position because of gravity. Your molten weld pool, if you don't move fast enough, can outrun where your welding arc is at. And as gravity tries to pull your weld down, you have to use the arc force, essentially the force coming out of the electric arc, to push the weld back up against gravity where you want it. And that's what creates this arrow shape, or what we call a ripple, pointing in the upward direction.
Could this tank have been welded from the bottom up?
Meaning, is it?
No, I mean, like, if you were to do this yourself, is it physically possible to start at the bottom and go up, or do you have to start at the top and go down?
No, it is possible to weld vertical up, and the code that would this tank would be under ASME Section 9, which is Boiler and Pressure Vessel Code for repair, actually would require it to be welded vertical.
Yeah, but there's no indication that money had anything to do with it. We already heard them talk about the money on the body cam, and the family has testified that that they were hiding a lot of money. So I can't see why we should spend 3 weeks going over their accounting.
Okay, so I think if I understood you correctly, if a vessel's going to be pressurized, the code says you got to go bottom up.
That's correct.
Okay. Which one is easier and faster?
Vertical down welding essentially is easier because while gravity can hinder what the bead looks like, it is easier to put in where you're not trying to stack. It doesn't take as much technique to perform the vertical down weld as it does, say, a vertical up. And vertical down weld is much faster than a vertical up.
Okay. Again, this is vertical down.
Correct.
Okay. Showing you people's.
That's the, of all the things in this case that makes me go, what the hell? Because as we talked about this morning, hey, it was really sus that he didn't allow them to fly a drone around. Why didn't you look at this tank in 3 years and saw this? Well, I am a baker. I don't know much about welding. I can tell this was a shitty weld. You could never repressurize that tank because the welding was so poorly done. There must have been, we are talking farm country. There must have been officers who have held a welding torch before, or helped their dad weld, or something. We're not talking about New York City. We're talking about farm country where people will look at this weld and say, why is this so different than any other weld on any other tank in this barn? To me, sloppy police work. Welcome, Ireland.
288. Why did you take this
Healthy.
This picture denotes the difference in height or profile from the end of the cylinder portion of the tank to where the cap or the dome portion was attached.
Okay. And zooming in on that. Are you saying one portion of this is higher than the other?
Correct.
Which portion is higher?
The dome portion or the cap portion is higher than the cylinder portion of the tank.
Do you know why that happened or how?
When these tanks are manufactured, they're manufactured with a submerged arc welding process, and it puts a lot of heat into the part as it's producing it. There's a lot of expansion and contraction forces, and likely that dome portion had a lot of those stresses in there. And of course, whenever it's welded, there's clamps involved as well to hold it in place. That freezes those forces, and then whenever it was cut or removed, essentially that dome portion kind of sprung outward.
Okay. So looking at 287, what vantage point are we at here?
This is at the repair weld at the very bottom of the tank. So this is where both sides would have came together at the end of the weld.
Okay, and is the bottom two sections misaligned also, or are those even?
No, the bottom section of both the tank and the dome portion of the cap are in the same plane in this picture.
So the bottom matches up, but not the top.
Correct.
Do you have an idea of what could have been, how this could have been put back together so that the bottom aligned?
Yeah. So obviously, if the dome portion kind of sprung out of shape after it was cut, and you go to line it back up, there's going to be sections that you can't align all of them, right? So you would specifically find a spot where you can align. In this case, it was at the bottom, so something was used probably to line up the bottom, forming essentially a cradle that goes under both sections to hold them in the same plane and line them up.
Okay, showing you People's 84, specifically that piece of equipment. Do you know what that is?
The pallet jack?
Correct.
Yep.
What does that do?
So essentially, this is a jack that is used to move palletized items around. It moves up and down from the ground, and the two tine forks would then essentially go into a pallet.
Okay. Would that be something that could have been used to keep the bottom edges aligned?
It is a possibility without knowing the definite dimension in between the tines of the pallet jack and how it would fit up to the circumference of the tank. That would be the question. But if it did fit, yes, it definitely could be used.
Okay. And looking at People's 178, specifically these 4x4s laying on the ground, could that have been something that would be used to align the bottom?
Objection is to speculation. So the last one, he said, well, it's a possibility, but I don't know. I think that we're just going to go through a number of items on the farm with Mr. Schmidt saying, I don't know.
This is the last one for what it's worth, Your Honor. I think he is qualified to say what pieces of equipment that are available could have been used. Thank you.
Yeah, they could be, definitely. Anything that would essentially create a cradle that the tank could sit on and also the end could sit on could be used.
Okay. And if the tank had a small amount of liquid in it, would it have been possible to do something to keep the liquid from spilling out?
Before it was cut?
Correct.
Yes. So if you lowered one end of the tank that you are not cutting on, that would essentially send the liquid down to the other end where you could cut the opposite end free without getting into the liquid.
Okay. Would that have made it significantly harder to cut the end off or reattach it?
It depends on what angle you had to put the tank to and how much liquid essentially would be in the tank that you're trying to disperse to the other side. It's a long tank, so if it didn't have a significant amount of liquid in it, more than a few inches, it wouldn't have to drop much on the other end to have everything run to the other side. And that would not create, if it was just an inch or two drop, that would not create too much of a problem on the other end for alignment.
Showing you 281. Now are we on the inside of the tank?
That's correct.
You had to crawl up in there?
Yes.
Okay. What is this picture showing us?
So this picture shows us the inside of essentially where the cut was made that removed the dome portion cap, and then where it was welded back on it. And we can go ahead.
What about this white substance?
So the white substance is a paint drip on the inside of the tank.
Okay, and what does that tell you?
That indicates that it was painted after the repair weld was made, and then the condition of the repair weld was not essentially liquid tight and allowed paint to drip through to the inside. This also indicates that it would not hold a significant amount of pressure after the fact.
Now showing you 282, again, still inside the tank.
That's correct.
What is this?
This shows us the cut curve from when the domed portion was removed. This is a backing ring on the inside of the tank. Essentially, in the manufacturing process, this would have been put in there to aid for penetration of the factory weld in a solid seal. And this shows where the cut was made, essentially a little bit of variation off of the center of the backing ring.
So if I can zoom in here, is the backing ring, is this the edge of the top side of the backing ring?
Correct, that is one side of it, yeah.
Okay. And then what is this groove right here?
So that is the kerf that was produced when the domed portion was cut from the tank.
Okay, and explain, what is a kerf?
Kerf, whenever you have a cut, essentially of anything, you have material that is removed in essentially a void. The thicker the item used to cut something, the wider the kerf essentially would be.
Okay. And so here, we're inside, so the weld from the outside did not come all the way through and cover up that kerf?
That's correct.
Okay. 283.
Also from inside the tank, another picture of the backing ring, the kerf. This kind of denotes how straight the section of the kerf is, or the cut that was made. And then there's also another spot of paint that leaked through.
Okay. What would be used to make a straight cut like this?
For this cut, whenever the cap was removed from the tank, and an abrasive cutting wheel was used.
Okay. And you can tell that from the straightness of the cut?
Straightness of the cut is one indication. The smooth edges of the cut and the kerf is another. And then here we see slivers or shards that were left behind from that process. And this is very common with that.
Okay. And this is photograph 284. So again, just for clarity, you said there's shards or slivers?
Correct.
And where are those in the picture?
These are the items that look jagged and are hanging down from the backing ring.
Okay. And 285?
More of the same.
Okay. 286?
More of the same. In this photo, we can also see the kerf was wide enough in this spot where we can see the actual repair weld that was made in this groove. And indicative of this picture here, we can see a silicon deposit that was left in the repair weld, and that is very common with a gas metal arc welding process and an ER70S type filler material.
Okay. So a MIG welder?
Correct.
And just for the jury, where do we see that silicone deposit on this picture?
It is the brownish looking item, probably mid screen, that extends out into the weld.
Talking about in this area right here?
Correct.
Now, how do you know it wasn't a plasma cutter or a torch?
That originally cut the dome off?
Correct.
Based on the kerf itself, a plasma cutter or like an oxyacetylene torch or an oxypropane torch would have produced a much more ragged, jagged type cut, especially done by a human with human error. A machined process, obviously machined plasma torch or machined oxy-fuel torch could have produced a much smoother cut, but this has no indication of that. There's also no heat indications on the inside that would lead us to believe that a flame was used.
Is a plasma cutter or a torch faster or slower if you're in a hurry than an abrasive cutoff wheel?
So the cutting itself, both plasma and oxy-fuel cutting would be faster than an abrasive wheel, but given And it would depend on obviously the skill of the operator with that plasma torch or with that oxy-fuel torch. But being the fact there would be general inconsistencies in the kerf, it might make it more difficult to make the surfaces back up.
Okay. So if you know you got to put it back together, you might save some time up front.
Objection leading.
If you got to, sorry, I'll rephrase. If you got to put it back together, which one would you choose?
The abrasive wheel would give you the best surface to put it back together.
Okay. And looking at People's 38, can you identify those items?
That is a looks like a corded angle grinder, and in the left hand, and in the right hand, that is either cutting or grinding discs.
Okay. And would this be considered an abrasive cutoff wheel and tool?
Yes, correct.
And that could have made that cut?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to People's 290. What is this a picture of?
This is a picture at the top of the tank on the end where the repair weld was made, where the dome was attached back to the tank.
All right, and again, where is that in the picture?
The repair weld itself is essentially center screen, and it runs from left to right across the tank.
Okay, and then what about that dot up at the top?
So there is another weld spot where something was.
Dory, this is the big problem. There's been no attempts so far. This is day 7. No attempts to point any fingers at a third-party culprit.
Was attached to this dome portion of the tank.
Okay. And do you have an opinion about how that would have gotten there?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
That whenever this dome portion was removed, it would have to be supported in some way so it did not fall. It's obviously not a square item. It's going to be somewhat awkward. So the ideal way to do it would be to attach probably a chain or something in that fashion to hang the item so that when it's cut free, it does not fall.
Okay. I'm showing you 291, which is what?
That is a close-up of that spot.
And can you explain, can you tell from that where the item that would have been welded to it was actually welded to it?
So from this picture, we can see that there's essentially a hollow spot. For lack of better terms, it almost looks like a donut. The item would have been welded into the center of that. That's where the physical item would have been. And then around the outside portion that we see, that would be the weld that is remaining. This is, of course, after it has been ground down.
Okay. So referring to this portion in the middle?
That's correct.
Okay. And tell that kind of U-shaped or horseshoe shaped, what is that portion right there?
Yeah, that inside there, what is where the weld is not, essentially would be the tank.
Okay, and so are you saying this is where something would have been attached to it?
Correct.
Okay. And what would have been used to attach to the tank?
Objection, speculation.
If you were doing this, what would you use?
If I was doing it.
Objection, speculation.
Have a great workout, Cheryl, and thank you for using us as you're probably doing cardio. That's boring, but thank you for choosing us to make your way through cardio. You got this.
Well, the question is, what would he use if he were doing it? That's speculative.
But then it's irrelevant. What he would use if he were doing this is totally irrelevant. It's not what an expert in welding would use.
I can rephrase just a bit, Your Honor. Given
Get it.
the evidence here of the weld to the top of the tank, do you have an opinion what was used to support it so it didn't fall off when it was cut all the way?
I do.
Okay. Please tell us.
It appears that a chain link would have been welded there.
Okay, thank you. Showing you People's 190 and zooming in. Would those type of chain be consistent with what you saw?
Marissa, this is a good Christian channel.
If the chain had been welded there, then what would be used to support the cap, if anything?
Finally, some spacer.
From the chain, you would need to attach it to overhead and a hook to put onto the end of the chain to do so.
Okay. Showing you People's 150. You see the forklift or fork truck in there?
Yes.
Would that be something that would be helpful?
Objection, speculation. He's saying it could have been used.
I don't think it's speculation. He's not saying it was something that someone to accomplish the job. I
Go ahead and answer.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. If you had a fork truck, how would you use it in this?
So with a fork, best way to use it would be to raise it.
Let's try and refresh it again. This has been really spotty some days.
Would those type of chain be consistent with what you saw?
Oh, it's the feet.
Then-
It's not.
From the chain, you would need to attach it to overhead and a hook to put onto the end of the chain to do so.
Okay. Showing you people's 150. You see the forklift or fork truck in there?
Yes.
Would that be something that would be helpful?
Objection. Speculation. He's saying it could have been used.
I don't think it's speculation. He's not saying it was.
The camera is glitching a lot today.
Someone who accomplished the job. I don't think that's speculative. It's all over.
Thank you.
Go ahead and answer.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. If you had a fork truck, how would you use it in this?
So with a fork, best way to use it would be to raise the tines over top of the end of, obviously weld the chain to the portion of the tank, suspend it from one of the tines of the fork truck, wrapping it around and hooking it back to itself.
Okay. Showing you people's 289. This is from when the committee's cut it open. Can you explain from what you just said how this is being done here?
Yeah, essentially the exact same way, except for they have used a large hook, a wrecker hook, and gone through an opening in the tank rather than welded the chain link to the end of the dome.
Okay. In this picture, they've got the fork truck on the side. Do you have an opinion whether it had to be on the side, one side or the other, or in the front?
It could have been on either side or the front. I think the front would make it more advantageous for alignment whenever you put it back on.
Okay, and how is that?
Basically, if you were in front of the tank, once you finished your cutting and essentially it hung there, you could just back the fork truck up directly, straight up, and then whenever you're ready to realign it, you could just drive it right back to the tank.
Okay. Just to direct your attention to the cut here, and I know that, well, first of all, let me look at the full picture. Can you tell from this picture what was used to cut the end of the tank off here?
I can.
How?
Based on a couple things. One, there is a red and green oxy-fuel hose laying in the background that runs up over top of the undercarriage of the tank that would be used for an oxy-fuel torch. And then the burn marks essentially made from the cut caused by the flame of the oxy-fuel torch.
Okay. And is this typical when you use the torch in terms of the pattern of the cut?
It depends on how skilled the individual is who's utilizing the torch and how much experience they have in doing a cylindrical item. Cylindrical items are quite a bit different than what we would say flat items are. So if they were highly skilled, it could be straighter. If they were less skilled, it could be even more crooked.
What other equipment would you need besides the welder and a way to support the bottom and to hold it from the top? Besides those things, what else would you need to do a welding job on the end cap?
Just welding the end cap?
Correct.
Obviously, you would need probably some PPE or personal protective equipment, which would include a welding helmet and gloves, that sort of thing. You would not be able to, a welding helmet essentially would be a must. you would not be able to see what you're doing without it.
Okay. So if you tried to weld without a welding mask, what would happen?
Essentially, you'd be trying to do it with your eyes closed. If you left your eyes open, the light
Well,
would be
it kind of looked
extremely
like he
bright,
welded with his
probably
eyes closed.
hurt your eyes. You could also receive UV burns to your eyes because of it. So you would be trying to do it with your eyes closed, and
No, it's a nervous tick. It's not because he's been doing it for 7 days now.
essentially doing it blind. You would most likely run way off course in a very short period of time.
Okay. So even given the inconsistencies in that weld, can you tell if that was done by somebody who was doing it blind, for lack of a better term?
It definitely was not somebody
so,
who had their eyes closed.
So that person had a welding mask then?
Correct.
Okay. What else besides a welding mask would you use?
Gloves to protect your hands. Yeah, as long as you had the welder and the equipment to put it back together, to align it, and then the PPE, you would be able to make that weld.
Okay. Would you use anything on your arms?
Potentially, that would fall under the PPE as well. Covering your arms. I mean, if this was done inside we'll say a welding facility, whoever would be doing it would be wearing a welding jacket or welding sleeves that would cover the arms, probably a welding cap to cover their head, a welding mask, and then probably heavy-duty welding gloves.
If you did this without something on your arms, what would you expect to see?
If your skin was exposed to it?
Correct.
You could expect to see essentially some burn marks. Depends on if you had sparks landing directly on your arm, but you would also see evidence of ultraviolet light burns, essentially. So potentially, depending on how long the duration was, the UV light that's produced in the welding arc is extremely intense, and it can burn uncovered skin relatively quickly.
Okay. Showing you people's 74. Do you have an opinion on this?
That is very indicative of what a burn from UV light produced by the welding arc would look like, especially if one was wearing a glove on the hand.
Thank you. You said a relatively short period of time. What would be the shortest you would think a person could be welding and get the results in that picture?
There's a few facets to answer that question. One is going to be the amount of voltage and amperage that's being produced in the weld. Machines are variable, so the thicker material that you're welding, or the higher the output you set the machine up for, the more UV light is going to be produced while you're welding. The more UV light that is produced is going to have a greater effect faster on the skin. Based on, would you like me to base it on essentially the weld size?
Yes.
Okay. So based on the repair weld size that we've seen, knowing that it was a higher amperage welding machine, I would say you could do that in a half hour or so. It also depends on the individual's how often they've been exposed to something like that. I guess a good example would be same thing from like a sunburn. If you go outside early on in the year and you have a very hot sunny day and you're out there for a half an hour, you might burn rather quickly, whereas maybe towards the end of the summer, same conditions, and you're used to being out in the sun, it would not burn as quickly.
Okay. You noticed that the paint was, excuse me, the tank in the tank 34 was painted white. Does that have any bearing on how quickly you could get the UV burn?
It would, because of the paint was gloss. So a gloss paint, essentially anything gloss reflects more, and UV light is no different than any other light, just like visible light that we see that gives things colors. It can be reflected off of shiny surfaces, and that would essentially intensify the UV light on the opposite side of the reflection.
All right, now I'll turn to how fast could somebody weld? Can you give us a figure in like inches per minute or something like that?
So to produce, in reference to the repair weld, to produce a weld of that size, anywhere from 6 to 10 inches per minute.
Did you measure the circumference of the tank?
I did.
What was it?
128 inches.
Okay, so all the way around 128 inches.
Correct.
And so is there any other factor in determining how quickly somebody could weld that back together other than the speed that they can weld?
There's a couple.
Okay, what are they?
One would be starts and stops as you reposition yourself, even because of the size of the circumference at 128 inches. It's relatively large diameter. Nobody could weld from start to finish all in one go. So you would have to reposition yourself often to create that one weld. That's going to take a little bit of time factored in. Also, the limitations of the equipment itself. Welding equipment has, every piece of welding equipment is rated by a duty cycle. And duty cycle for a welding machine is a period out of 10 minutes that you can actually, that the machine is rated to have an arc on time.
Okay. And so give us a typical duty cycle.
60%.
Okay. And so if a welder has a 60% duty cycle, out of every 10 minutes, how many minutes can it spend welding?
It can weld for 6 minutes out of 10.
Okay.
Hey, before I go.
Right. And showing you people's 295. Is that the same type of machine that you identified earlier?
It is.
Okay. And I'm going to zoom in here, but can you tell what the duty cycle of this machine is?
It says 60%.
And the amperage for this machine?
200 amps.
So you said you could do 6 to 10 inches per minute. Slow would be 6, fast would be 10.
Oh my.
You could weld 6 out of 10
Nefarious.
minutes. 6 minutes out of every 10 minutes, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So what would be the quickest, given those variables, that someone could weld that entire 128 inches?
Can I refer to?
Did you do some notes?
I did. I brought some notes and I did some calculations.
Okay, if that would refresh your memory, yes, please.
Okay, so at 10 inches per minute, the quickest you could weld that 128 inches with a 60% duty cycle would essentially be 21.3 minutes of arc on time.
Okay, so that's with the pauses, because you could only weld 6 out of 10 minutes, still 21 minutes you could do it?
Yes, that doesn't take into consideration necessarily starts and stops, depending on how much time is spent in between. That is strictly with duty cycle, and then your starts and stops could count for some of that duty cycle loss as well.
Okay. And if you were on the slower side, the 6 inches per minute side, what would be the time for that person?
On the 6 inches per minute, 35.5 minutes of arc on time.
And the same caveat, plus starts and stops?
Yeah, so plus starts and stops, and same thing goes for that. And we had 11 starts and stops that I had identified in the tank, and that can vary from a few seconds. If it is just a position or a reposition, obviously that would be a relatively short period of time. And to calculate what it would take for actual weld time, we would just add additional time beyond the 60% duty cycle for that.
So with, you got 11 starts and stops. We don't know how long exactly it took the welder in this instance to reposition themselves, correct?
Correct.
But taking that out of the equation, you could do it in as little as 21 minutes, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the slower welder, 35 minutes.
Correct.
Do you have an idea of how long it would have taken to cut the end off with the abrasive wheel?
I do.
And how do you know that?
So I did some experiments with the same type of equipment to gather inches per minute on a relatively same thickness of material to come up with basically a formula to calculate exactly how long it would take to cut 128 inches of the same thickness of material with the same type of equipment, abrasive wheel.
Okay, and what did you come up with?
2.5 inches per minute.
I'm sorry. I know this is a good Christian channel, but giggity, giggity, giggity.
Okay, and so then to cut 128 inches at 2.5 inches per minute, how long does that take?
That's approximately 50 minutes.
5-0?
50.
Is there any reason that would have to be done all at once, or could you break that up?
No, you could break it up, and not knowing what the restraints are, but given if it was being done, it probably would be. It would be broke up because you would not start from.
Objection, speculation.
I think he's the expert. He's in the position to indicate. After cutting it off, welding it back on, how quickly could you repaint it? How long does it take to cool down?
Because there's a lot of thermal mass in this tank, or a lot of mass in general, it would be able to cool off rather quickly. And because it's so big, 128 inches of weld, by the time you got back to the side that you started with, it would be completely cool, essentially. So you could start on that side right after you were finished.
Other than the approximately 50 minutes to do the complete cut and between 21 minutes and 35 minutes to weld it back on, is there any significant amount of time that we haven't accounted for in the process of cutting it off, welding it back on, grinding the spots down, etc.?
No significant amount of time, but there are other things, obviously, that would be in there.
Like what?
The time it takes to essentially remove the cap to provide access to the tank, and then to put the cap back to the tank and align it.
Let's stop right there. So you're talking about if a forklift had been used, you've already described just backing up and then going forward?
Correct.
How much time would you expect that to take?
It would not take much. To remove the cap is simply backing up on the fork truck, relatively under 30 seconds to back that up. And then to reposition it forward, depending on how much skill the operator had that was operating the fork truck, it could be the same, especially if there was guides at the bottom to help cradle the bottom of the dome to the tank.
Okay. All right. What other factors we have?
As far as welding it back together.
Well, you indicated that there were some high spots that had been ground down.
Yeah. So there was some discontinuities within the weld. For a better terminology, drips that would stick out, high profile spots in the face of the weld bead that were ground back down to create uniformity with the weld. Small spots, I would say 5 minutes of grinding would be enough to do all that was done.
Okay. All right, so some point, you said at the very beginning that the fourth time you looked at the tank, you were comparing a photo that you were provided with a physical tank itself. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And can you tell us what was the photo on that you were looking at?
It was a body cam photo of a tank sitting on the ground.
And this is People's 79. Do you recognize that?
I do.
Okay. Now, when you had initially met with the Michigan State Police, did they show you a photo?
Not initially, but when I came back in for a follow-up interview, I was shown a photo.
Okay. And did you match, or did you attempt to match that photo to the tank at that time?
I did.
Okay. Did you actually go up to the tank itself and look?
No.
Okay. Why not?
It was in the prosecutor's office, so we did not have physical access to the tank at that time.
Okay. But later on, you did?
We did, yes.
Okay. And so you took this photo and you compared it to the physical tank?
Correct.
And what did you find?
That it did match up rather well. There are several.
Objection to the use of the term match. I think that goes far afield of his abilities. I also think it's improper if he wants to talk about similarities and dissimilarities, consistent inconsistencies. But to say it's a match is unfairly prejudicial.
I'm fine with that, Your Honor. Could you explain consistencies or inconsistencies?
Yeah, I viewed spots within the repair weld on the tank that was consistent with spots in the photograph.
Okay. And are you able to identify any of those with this?
Yes, and I can use zoom in a little bit further. So a couple of the items that was identified was the two anomalies about, we'll say 10 to 12 inches up from the bottom of the tank along the seam of the repair weld.
Okay. Are we talking about this area in here?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the offset at the top of the tank where the dome is attached.
Okay. When you were physically present with the tank, what did you see?
I saw consistencies that were with this photo.
I don't know what the tie is about.
Were you able to, when you looked at this, did something stand out to you in terms of the paint?
It almost seems like you would need two people to position that end cap. Any insights to this? I am not a welder. I would imagine that it's heavy as hell. But again, if you got it tipped up on a forklift, that you can just ride that forklift, as long as it's not on its back on the forklift. If you get it up there and it's positioned correctly, maybe put some ratchet straps around it, drive it forward, start tacking the weld, remove the straps so it's still resting on the forklift pallet or the prongs, and then you just need to hold it in position. It would be a shitty job, but I think you could do it.
I noticed that the paint was very flat.
In what part?
Around the weld area.
Could this be done by one person, or would it take more than one person to do this job, cutting the tank end off and welding it back together?
Objection, speculation.
If you know.
This job could be done with one person if they had the proper tools and equipment.
Okay, and the tools that we've talked about today.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Hardy, if you want to take a recess before you begin, it's about 3 o'clock, so we're kind of in that.
That might be a good idea because I think this is a natural breaking point. And I believe this is the last witness for the day.
We'll take a 5 to 10 minute recess. You can step in.
But I'm kind of thinking, again, I'm not a MIG welder or whatever.
We need to address outside first.
Not at this time, Your Honor.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
But if you drive the forklift up and make it flush against, because I don't know if you could do it in that. When I took my truck driver certificate, some of the trucks you could kind of push the prongs in and out, so you could grab onto something, because this is a rounded dome, so of course it'll be a little bit different. But you ride it up, you make this secure against it, then you cut it, and as it comes off, put some ratchet straps on to keep it up along the prongs. You move this back, you insert that body, then you roll it forward again. Where you maybe have like 2 straps on it, and rolls all the way forward. Start tacking it on, and then remove the straps. And I think that's possible in that way. They say he liked to use the forklift with a chain. Looks like he welded the chain on. Then they showed this a spot on the tank where the chain was attached. Oh, you think the flat spot is where the chain was attached? Could be as well. No, they believed he dangled it from a chain that was welded on. Okay, well, I thought the flat spot was when he cut it and it fell down, actually. So I didn't catch that part. Sorry. Ratchet straps are the best. I was moving furniture for a furniture company back when I got divorced. That was my first job after I got divorced. Yeah, I think so. And we would often work way too many hours, and because I was driving a truck and you have to have like that little tattletale in your speedometer that'll tell you how many hours you have been off work, and because you're only allowed to drive X amount, and then you have to have X amount hours off. So one night I was going home, and they told me, okay, come back tomorrow. Instead of 8, come back at 10 because you need your hours, and we'll pack the truck for you. Normally I would pack the truck in the morning myself. And I came back, the first delivery we had, I had a guy who helped me drag all the stuff in, and he ran up to the house and to get the owners out so we could, hey, where do you want it? And then I started loading some stuff on that little you have on the back of a truck. And these assholes hadn't put a ratchet strap on a dining table in massive wood of some kind. I don't know, 5-6 feet up in the air on the back on that lorry. Fell on me, then it fell down, and it just got me across the back. And I was sure I was gonna go paralyzed. I couldn't feel anything from right about this area and downwards. And I was just screaming because I was alone in their driveway with a table on top of me, and I couldn't feel my legs, and I was just screaming to get someone to come out and help me. That was a day I wish someone had remembered the ratchet straps. That wasn't a fun day. These tanks have feet that lift them off the ground. Yeah, that wasn't a good day at work. The funny part is because I got all the wind and knocked out of me, and I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand, and I was really scared that something bad had happened. And I already had my bad back at that time, so you get really scared when you're just lying down on the ground with a big old massive table on you. And I was, well, the homeowner and that guy were carrying all the shit in, and I could get a little bit of a break, and I was like, oh, I can move my toes again. It was the shock. And I called home to the company and said, this isn't good. I don't feel I think I might need to go to the hospital. Well, can't you just finish your route? I said, this is the first place. I have 5-6 hours on the road. I can't feel my feet. And the guy next to me he was just some young kid who worked for the company. He didn't have a truck driver's license or anything. I said, can't you send someone out here to, because I need to get to the hospital. Nah, can't you just drive it in, leave it at the company, and then go to the hospital after? And I'll start driving until I can't feel my feet anymore. Then I'll have to stop at some point. And I think I made it like 5 minutes, and then there was a gas station just held in there. Called them and said, "Yeah, you have to come now. I can't." And luckily, I had nothing broken, but they had to shift something back in position in the back and stuff like that. That didn't feel too good. And then they got pissy that I didn't want to go back and do my route after the doctor had said that I needed at least a week where I didn't touch anything, carry anything, do anything, because they had to see how bad it was when the swelling had gone down. That wasn't a good day at work. Well, I did have dirt on it because I was on the ground screaming. And when you can't feel your body parts, that's an issue. Yeah, they didn't really feel that was an issue. That's they felt that I could just do my job. Minimum wage job, and then because those assholes didn't secure the load, I could have been paralyzed if it had just fallen a little more, because luckily I was standing on the ramp, and it kind of leaned on me and pushed me over more than it fell on me and hit me. So it followed me down over the ramp instead of it coming down on an angle. So that's probably what saved me, because if I had gotten the edge of the table on my spine, most likely I would have I've been a gonzo. So, but that's how it is. Oh, you can't believe them. Have you ever worked a manual labor job? I had a buddy of mine when we have a specialty where I live that's called bonsvier. That's dough with a mixture of butter and brown sugar on top of it, and then more brown sugar on top of it. Really good, tastes great. We use it for birthdays, and we eat them a lot. But when you bake sugar, it'll become a liquid because it melts. And this guy was pulling out one of these plates, and there was way too much filling on it. And you never tilted it, because then it'll run back at you. And when he stepped back, he tilted it, and he got all that hot sugar over his hands and had third-degree burns. They got angry at him that he had to take 3 weeks off, because he could just not pour liquid sugar on his hands. Problem is with liquid sugar, it's like napalm. You can't wash it off. I mean, if you can't feel it, then it's not hurting, so you need to keep working. Anime knows what it's about. I don't know what OSHA is. Oh, yeah. I went back and became a baker again. Sadly, in a bakery where they were about to go bankrupt, and that wasn't the funniest place to work at that time either. But then I worked at a place I'd worked at before, and then I got my second herniated disc, and then I got my back operation, and I haven't been a baker since. That's scary as if. I always have ratchet strap, bungee cords, retractable drill, screwdriver, and duct tape in my trunk at all times. It's just, you will never ever have anything unsecured. And it was a day where we really had the truck was completely full. So especially I think it weighed above 200 pounds, that table. Why wouldn't you put a ratchet strap on something like that? not only for our safety, but also it's going to stand there and shift in the cargo room. It'll damage other goods. Thank you, Shay. 31284 for becoming a member. Ember. Oh, health and safety. Yeah, we have those. Yeah. I could file a complaint after, but I didn't lose any use of my body, so couldn't get any money from them anyway. I had when I hurt my back, I tried to get kind of workers' comp because I couldn't work as a baker anymore, and they said, "Well, we can't directly relate it to your job." Okay. And now you spend your days hanging with us online randoms. Talk about moving up. I'm moving on up. Yes, side eyes. What a joy some of you are. I'm looking at Sue. And again, they probably had those safety courses. They just didn't follow in. It's the same when I was deployed doing my fake Valentine. We had to paint some wooden steps, and we had some really, really toxic that us Danish soldiers couldn't paint with. So they just let the local guys put on a mask and paint with it because, hey, they didn't have the same health and safety regulations we did. Because that makes sense.
Your Honor. Mr. Schmidt, my name is Mary Chartier. I represent Mr. Warner, and I have some questions for you this afternoon. So you indicated that you were contacted by the Michigan State Police on August 27th, 2024. Is that accurate?
Yep. Yes.
How did they reach out to you? How did they learn about you? Do you know that?
I do not know directly how they did, but they reached out to me by phone.
Do you know who made contact by phone?
Detective Brewer.
Did you ever ask, how did you learn about me?
I believe I might have. I don't recall for sure though.
Did you know anyone involved with the case?
I do not.
Had you worked with them, Michigan State Police or anyone in the past?
No.
Now you then went, did you go that day to look at the exterior of the tank?
I would have to look at my report for exact dates, but I believe it was scheduled for a couple days later.
Sure, so why don't you take a look if that would help refresh your memory. I believe it's on the second page.
The inspection was scheduled for the 29th of August.
So the 29th of August, so you went to take a look at it. How much time did you spend with the tank?
I would have to say probably an hour and a half-ish.
And that's when you took the measurements that we saw?
Correct.
And you took photographs?
Correct.
And you inspected everything that you wanted to inspect that day as it relates to the exterior?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what was the tank made of?
As far as...
Sure. So is it plastic, steel?
It's steel composed of.
And what steel you said mostly?
Composed of.
Oh, steel composed of. And then at that point in time, and even up until today, what was your experience cutting open and welding a steel tank like that?
I have had experience cutting, specifically cutting anhydrous tanks open before. It's not uncommon for them to be used, as odd as it sounds, as fire rings when they're decommissioned.
So what's a fire ring? Now I'm intrigued by that.
So given that the large diameter of the tank itself, 41
I wasn't in the gutter.
Slivers of the tank are often cut and used as a ring to build a campfire in.
Oh, so people put a campfire in the middle of the metal?
Yep.
And so you do that? You help cut the tank so they can do that?
I have done that before, yes.
How many times?
About 3.
And when you cut the tank open, did it have any liquid in it?
No, ma'am.
And what did you use to cut the tanks open?
I used oxyacetylene torch.
A what torch?
Oxyacetylene torch.
Okay, so you didn't use, you called it an abrasive wheel or a grinder. You didn't use that?
I did not.
Have you ever used that to cut open a steel tank?
Not an anhydrous tank, but yes, a steel tank I have.
And let's say the tank that we saw, tank 34, let's say you were going to cut that with the grinder. Should I call it a grinder or an abrasive wheel, or what would you prefer?
Either is fine.
Okay, well, we'll call it a grinder. How many wheels would it take? So the grinder has a wheel.
Stop it. Get help. Stop it.
Wheel on it, correct?
That's correct.
How many wheels would it take to cut that?
It depends on the diameter.
I hope it's not muted. I can hear it. Isn't it coming through to rumble?
Or excuse me, on the thickness of the wheel. The thinner the wheel, the faster it would use up. Also the diameter of the wheel. You can get wheels in various diameters, same thing. The greater the diameter, the longer it would last.
So can you give us an estimate? It might take 4 to 8, or can you tell us?
I would say, given that circumference.
Roadside services is what you will call AAA. And the people you call to come out and fix your tire in 3 hours.
Probably 6 to 8 wheels.
6 to 8 wheels. And then how loud would it be? It sounds like you've done this before, although you haven't used a grinder. But with a grinder, how loud would that be?
It would be loud. You have the noise from the grinder itself, and then obviously you have a hollow tank that would echo the sounds.
So when you say loud, people have said I have a loud voice, right? So is it loud like that, or is it, wow, loud, people like my neighbor would hear?
It would be above 85 decibels, which is at the point that they recommend hearing protection.
Okay, so above 85 decibels. Right. And so you've cut open those tanks before to help make the fire rings. What about welding them shut? Have you ever welded a tank like that shut before?
I have not.
Did you do any sort of experiment in this case? So when you were hired, did you say, I wonder how long it would take, or anything like that?
So whenever I started calculating what it would take to actually time for the weld to be produced, I did do some experiments, because basically the type of weld that we see as the repair weld is not what we would consider a common weld for that type of joint, meaning there was no concern for penetration, right? It was just to put the cap back on. So thickness wasn't necessarily a priority. If we used any type of calculator, there are some online weld calculators, and then there are some formulas. It's going to give in the actual thickness of the weld. So to get a more accurate measurement, I did do some physical experiments where I welded very similar to that.
And so did you take that into account when you were coming up with the calculation of how long it would take, how long it took you?
I did.
And then your experience level is how many years? 20 plus, I think?
It is.
Okay. Did you have a student do it to see maybe how they would do it?
No, I had no students involved.
Now, would a weld like that, or the grinding, so either the cutting or the welding, does that cause sparks?
It does.
What does? The cutting or the welding?
Both.
Both. Okay, and do the sparks fly places, so, or do they just go right to the floor? So, or are they all over?
For the grinder, it depends on if there is a guard on the grinder. The guard will direct the sparks in a general way. Usually they're rotatable so that the sparks do not hit the operator, or you can send them in a direction that you would like for them to go. For the welding, they're going to propagate out from the center of the weld and go all directions.
Go all directions, including, for example, on clothing?
It's possible. It depends how far the operator is away from where the welding is happening, but yes.
What about on the floor?
Yes.
Does it cause anything? So, for example, if they got on my clothes, might they burn them, the sparks?
It's possible.
What about on the floor?
Depends on the floor surface. So if it's like a painted floor surface, you could see remnants of that. If it's concrete, you probably wouldn't notice anything. You would have essentially, it would look like dust essentially, but the sparks are actually molten metal that is molten in the air, which is why they look orange. And then whenever they cool, they just look like dust.
Stephen, like I said before, with the police officers not noticing probably you look like a man who have seen a welding torch before. You would have PTSD just looking at how bad that weld was. And no police officer, no one in that barn looked at it in 3 years and said, that looks fucking weird. So you can get away with saying, yeah, grinding would be loud. Which part of it? When the machine is on, when it's touching the metal, depending on the angle, depending on how you're using it. Yeah.
They look like a color. So for instance, does it look like black soot or gray dust, or what does it look like?
Yeah, usually darker in color.
Darker color.
Sure.
Now you went on, you said August 29th, 2024. Oh, do you know how heavy that tank is?
I do not know exactly how heavy the tank is.
And you don't know how heavy the piece was that was cut off, correct?
I do not know exactly, no.
That would have been nice to know.
Did I already ask you, do you know how thick the steel was?
You did not, but I do. I took measurements of that.
Terrific. Would you tell us?
The measurement I took was 0.223 inches.
0.223. So 0.223 inches.
Correct.
Now, you said you had experience cutting open an anhydrous ammonia tank. Did you take any precaution? Well, let me ask you this. When you were cutting it for the fire, was there any chemicals or anything in the tank, or had it been cleaned out?
No, it had been decommissioned for quite some time.
If you were cutting into an anhydrous ammonia tank, would you take any precautions?
If it had anhydrous in it, I guess it would depend on what my knowledge of the tank was, how long since it had been used, how full it was, how much anhydrous was in it, that sort of thing.
What precautions would you take?
Well, obviously, if it was full, I probably wouldn't do it.
I don't think anyone would. But suppose it had some anhydrous in it.
I would first probably vent the tank to make sure that there is no buildup of fumes inside. Possibly, depending on how quickly it needed to be done, but to be safe, I would probably purge the tank. That could be done with air or inert gas or even water.
I'm going to stop you right there. You said vent the tank. How would you do that?
Providing a hole. So in the case of an anhydrous tank, I would probably take the valves out and provide an airway.
And does that go out into the air? So you want to like dissipate that, what's inside?
Mainly so that it's not a contained vessel.
So it's not a contained vessel. So it's not, for example, like in a garage or something like that. You want to do it outside?
Meaning that it's not contained, meaning it's not pressurized.
Not pressurized.
Correct.
How long would it take to vent it?
Relatively quickly.
What's relatively quickly?
If there was pressure inside, it would leak out immediately. If you were trying to vent odor or something like that, it would take quite a while longer. I don't know that you'd ever get the smell completely out of it.
So when people say things like quite a while longer, I always like to try to get some idea because it means something different to everybody. So what does that mean to you?
A long time. And
we don't know yet. We know he moved around on the farm in daytime because we have seen him with the round grinder. I can't remember what they're called in English. The one where you put on the sandpaper thingy.
Being the fact that I don't have exact experience in venting a tank to where it does not have any odor anymore, I couldn't give you an exact time.
So when you say a long time, are you talking like days, weeks, months?
I can say that the tank in this case, even after it was open, still had an ammonia odor in it whenever I entered it. And that was quite a while.
And so was it a strong odor?
Yes, it was fairly strong.
Now, you said you were telling us other things that you would do, and then I stopped you so I could understand the venting. So what was something else that you had said?
Potentially purging it, and you could purge it with air, or you could purge it with an inert gas, or even, some people that repair tanks will purge with water so that there's no vapor inside.
And then anything else, any other precautions you would take?
Obviously have a face shield. As a precaution, I would make sure I have my PPE on, probably to make sure that there is a fire extinguisher nearby, especially if I was doing it by myself in case.
Hose line grinder, slide grinder.
Why did you say fire extinguisher? What would be the concern about something catching fire?
Well, you're creating sparks, right? Whether you're cutting or welding, those sparks can land in certain things, and if you're unknowing, it could essentially set something on fire, and you would want to put that out.
Would you have a concern about the chemical itself with the sparks?
I don't know for sure whether anhydrous ammonia is flammable. I do not believe it is, but I do not know that for sure, so I can't say.
Anything else that you would do?
Obviously, arrange equipment, make sure I had everything I needed to be able to do it. But for precaution wise, probably not.
And then, do you have any experience painting an anhydrous ammonia tank?
I do not.
So you don't know how long it would take the paint to dry, anything like that?
I do not.
So the mildly pretty would be correct with a slide grinder.
The August 29th, 2024 look that you did of the tank. You said that there were contaminants, and I reviewed your analysis, contaminants combined with the weld material during the welding process. Do you know, and that's on page 3 if you need it, do you know what those contaminants were?
I do not specifically. I can make an assumption or give you my opinion on what they were.
So we don't want any assumptions in a courtroom. So if you don't know the contaminants, that's fine.
Yep.
Thank you. And so you don't know again where they came from.
Correct.
Thank you. Then you ultimately met with Detective Druyer and Detective Singleton in September. Is that accurate?
Correct.
And tell us about that. What did you do at that meeting?
I had an interview with them, and they wanted to show me a photo of the tank, and asked me if I could identify the tank, or I should say a photo of a tank, and asked me if I could identify the tank in the photo.
And is that at that trip before you met with them, is that when you viewed the interior of the tank?
Yes.
Okay, so you had viewed the interior of the tank in September, then you met with Detective Druyer and Detective Singleton, and they wanted to show you a photograph and then see if that was consistent with the tank that you had viewed. Is that accurate?
Correct.
And the photograph that they showed you was actually an enhanced photo, correct?
I'm not sure if it was or not. I know it was a photo that was on a device. It was from a body cam. I don't
And Zach, we're not talking about your dating app, by the way.
know if it was essentially a still photo or if it was a stop in the footage itself.
Do you remember them telling you that it was an enhanced photograph?
I don't remember them saying that, but it's possible that they did.
Would listening to your interview help refresh your memory?
It would.
Thank you.
I love you ladies are telling
Ms. Saylor,
me,
would you go to
this rocket manly man.
03 at about 58
I don't know shit
seconds.
about power tools. Oh, he got the headset on. Why wasn't the state forced to use the headset?
Did that help refresh your memory?
It did.
And it was an enhanced photograph, correct?
So they commented that they had enhanced it as much as they could.
Correct. And you have no reason to believe that they were lying to you and they said it was an enhanced photograph, right?
No.
And at that point, you looked at the photos taken by law enforcement, including the enhanced one, the body camera, your photos, and the actual tank, correct?
At that point, yes.
At that point. And you didn't issue any kind of an opinion that you thought that this was consistent, correct?
I believe my opinion during the interview that
Yes.
referring to, yeah, my opinion was that from what I had in front of me, I couldn't make a determination.
You could not make a determination. And that would have been, again, September 24th, 2024, correct?
That's correct.
Then you went back and viewed the tank a third time. Was that January 5th, 2026?
It was.
Why did you go back and view it a third time?
At that point in time, there was a question of if there was any other weld marks that might have been missed on the tank. I want to take a look to see possibly how the end cap might have been supported, if there was any marks, that sort of thing.
And so did you miss a weld mark when you have viewed the tank the prior two times?
I wouldn't say I missed a weld mark, but there was a weld mark outside of the repair weld that was on the tank.
And had you noted that there was this other weld mark on the tank?
I had not.
Now, when you went out in January, did anyone tell you what to look for? So give you any guidance?
Power tools on a budget with multi-pretty JMR Polymac this Saturday at noon. Get all your facts about oscillating, side grinders, and I don't know, buffers. Next week, it'll be Power Tools on a Budget with Steven, who will come in and talk about when is a plasma torch the tool for you. It's going to be a new series on the channel, going out to the, like me, less capable of power tooling. And as a special bonus, we will have Zach effing up, changing a tire. It'll be more of a humorous laugh track kind of thing. That'll be this Sunday's members only. Will be Zach kicking a tire for 2 hours, trying to get the thing to fit over the thing. No anime, I'm not putting that one up. I've never cut any metal that thick, so I wouldn't know where to begin. I have sawed some metal, and I think I've cut some metal back in school. I have never ever used any of these power tools. Exactly, Holly. That can go on a sawzall, and it wouldn't create a lot of sparks like a grinder would. You'll get some, but nothing near like a grinder. Dave, the Boston Laborers Union will be joining for Power Tools, Friends or Foes, this Saturday at noon.
As far as the weld mark
Yes.
was noted, no.
Did anyone show you any still photographs, any body camera images, anything like that?
So while there, I'm trying to, I can get my report.
Sure.
Trying to remember if that was the instance or if it was at a later date. But there was a time there with the tank that I was showed a still photo again of that same body cam footage while I was there with the tank.
So was that that?
That's what I'm trying to.
Okay, sure. Go take a look.
That was not at that time.
Okay, when was that time?
That would have been the, I believe the fourth time that I went out to look at the tank.
Was that in February?
I believe it was.
February of this year?
Correct.
February 2026?
Yes.
I'm going to get to that in a minute. Before we get to that final view of the tank, and that was the final view of the tank for you?
Yes.
You had talked about the welding machine that was in a photograph, the Miller?
Yes.
Do you know how many of those machines are sold?
I do not know exactly how many of those machines are sold.
Was that a surprise to you to see a welding machine like that? Something you'd never seen of before?
No.
It's a fairly common welding machine?
Yes.
When you were preparing your analysis and then for this case, did anyone show you a comparison of welds and ask you, okay, can you tell if the same person did this weld and this weld?
No, but I believe I was asked if you could tell if a specific person did a weld early on.
And what was your response to that?
No.
So it's not, you didn't do a weld lineup to see if you could match?
No.
Now, when you were talking with Mr. McCready and testifying, you were talking about the pallets and the cradle and things like that. You would agree with me that's all speculation on your part, correct?
I wouldn't say if it's, I would say that's my opinion on how that would be done and how I would do it.
Sure, how you would do it, right? But you don't know that's how it was done, correct?
I do not know that's how it was done.
And so, for instance, when you were talking about a chain, you don't have a chain that you can say, this is the chain that was supposedly welded to the tank, correct?
No.
And you don't have a forklift or a pallet where you're like, okay, that was used as the cradle, right?
No.
Did anyone talk to you about, or say, could you use a chain? Something like that?
I believe I was asked how I would do it and specified that that's how I would do it.
Now, getting to the September, or excuse me, the February meeting. So you had viewed the tank in August of 2024. You had then viewed the tank again in January of 2026. In between that, you saw the tank in September of 2024, and that's when you were shown the enhanced photographs, correct?
Correct.
And so at no point, again, did you reach some sort of an opinion that there was the similarity between the two tanks that we're hearing about today, right?
No.
That came about at a meeting on February 9th, 2026, right?
Correct.
Who was in that meeting?
When I went to examine the tank,
Sure.
I believe both Mr. McCready and Detective Brewer were there.
So Mr. McCready and Detective Drew were there. Are you aware the trial had actually started at that point in time?
No, ma'am.
And only on February 9th, 2026, where did you then claim that now you could say there were consistencies between the two, to the point that you were going to be testifying to that in court, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
So you were asked a series of questions about precautions that you would take if you were going to cut open an anhydrous tank. I think you may have had 3, 4, 5, or 6. My question is, could a person do that, cut open an anhydrous tank without taking those precautions?
Yes.
Okay. Could a person have cut open this particular anhydrous tank without using an abrasive wheel?
Yes.
What about the shards and all that? I mean, I'm not saying in general, I'm saying this particular tank.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt on how this particular tank was, the dome was removed off of the tank. Okay. It was with an abrasive wheel.
But we don't know whether the person used precautions when it came to the anhydrous that may or may not have been in there.
No.
Okay, but they could have done it without any precautions whatsoever in that regard.
Objection. Asked and answered and speculation.
I do agree with this.
Thank you, guys. I agree too. Last thing is, I may have misheard, but I think Ms. Shardy asked you something about being hired. Have you been hired in this case at all?
No, I have not.
Have you received any money at all?
No.
Okay, and you spent how many hours, do you think? You doing evaluations and writing the reports?
Probably upwards of 30.
Thank you. When
Yeah, he cut, it looks like he cut open the seam or the manufacture weld. And no, not Paula. Where did you go? Where did you go? Mildly Pretty. The weld he made after were, first of all, it wasn't smooth at all. You could just see that he had all the way up there. There was a lot of splotches along the way, and there was a gap between the two sides of the tank that was welded together. There was I don't know welding, and I could see this was a shitty weld. So that's why I'm asking, why didn't the police notice in 3 years that he did such a bad job with the welding?
we met or when you met with Detective Dreer and Singleton, did any of us ever tell you what?
Thank you. Yeah, he's losing it today.
No. Okay, thank you.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
I'll go back and show you pictures of the weld.
Mr. Schmidt, you are still under your subpoena, which means you're still subject to any sequestration orders.
Oh, he can be recalled.
Please be mindful of that and continue to make yourself available for testimony if that's necessary. Okay, so for now, you are free. And to my understanding, that is our last witness for today. Is that accurate?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be releasing you shortly. Tomorrow will be a little bit different than normal. We are going to be doing a view of some premises and some other things. It's also a Wednesday, so I have my Wednesday morning docket that will go until 10:30. So we'll try to get started at 10:30, but we won't be doing anything in the courtroom. We get to go on a field trip. So I do have an instruction to read to you regarding that. We will be letting you see the anhydrous ammonia tank where Ms. Warner was discovered, the Warner's Munger Road home and property, and the Paragon Road property, only to help you understand the evidence that has been and is presented in court. You must not consider anything you learn from seeing the tank and properties that was not covered by the evidence admitted in the trial. We will be conducting these site visits tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Please arrive at your normal meeting spot around 10 a.m. We will provide transportation to the premises and returning to the judicial building, and we will also provide you with a lunch. The properties are likely to be muddy, and it's my understanding we may get some snow tonight, so you may want to wear boots and casual clothing and dress for the weather. We will not be spending any time in the courtroom tomorrow. Neither myself nor the attorneys are permitted to speak with you while you are outside the courtroom, as there will not be any court recorder with us. There will be a Michigan State Trooper leading you through the property, but he cannot answer any questions. You will be permitted to bring your notepads and maps. You may not discuss the case with your fellow jurors or anyone else during the site visit. You may not take any photographs or videos with your personal devices. If you have any questions about the logistics of the premises visit, if you know them now, you can write them down now and pass them to the bailiff. Other than that, during the trial, please do not read, listen to, or watch any news reports about the case. Under the law, the evidence that you consider to decide the case must meet certain standards. For example, witnesses must swear to tell the truth, and the attorneys must have the ability to cross-examine them. Because news reports do not have to meet these standards, they could give you incorrect or misleading information that could unfairly favor one side. So to be fair to both parties, both sides, you must follow this instruction. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Let's go back and see the welds, because we have some people in here now who understand welding. This is how the weld looked. You can clearly see that even if it's an enhanced photograph, this isn't a smooth factory production welding. Well, oh, no. Can I get that picture again? That was a good picture of it. What's the line to the left? That's the original, I think, the original where the two halves were joined. So he cut it right in front of the factory. I think so. I don't. We have some people who understand welds. But anyone who would have walked past this weld and knows a little bit about tanks or welding would look at this and say, did a blind person do this? No court tomorrow. I'm not sure. They're going on a morning expedition, but I don't know how far from the courtroom. I'm not a. Do we have a local who can tell us if it's going to be a full day, or maybe they'll be back after lunch? I don't. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's a mess. That would be called a hazard job. But I'll set the stream up for 1:30 and follow the Discord and the Twit and get the notifications there. But did he mean at all, or in the morning at all? That's yeah. at all. If that's how you take, let's just have we have a backup. So if anything happens, we're ready to go. Shouldn't we do that? That's not a professional weld at all. Anyone could see that. You're absolutely correct, Baker, 100%. Yeah, if they were on these premises multiple times during the 3 years till they found her body, anyone who walked past this tank with this weld on it should have said, that looks kind of weird, because every other tank has the factory seal because it's a pressurized tank. A weld like this would say, and it'll pop the top off because it's such a bad job. It will not be able to withstand the pressure because it's a gas tank. It's not a liquid tank, as I understand it. It doesn't turn to liquid until it comes out and connects with air. We'll go back. We'll go back and try and listen, because I understood it as we will not be in court tomorrow morning. But yeah, and again, we're talking about farm country. We're not talking about NYPD blues. We're talking about kids who most likely have an uncle who have 5 dairy cows and a bushel of wheat stuffed somewhere on his grounds. This to me looks really bad. This is really, really shitty welding. And I don't know welding. So I'm just saying, how the hell can you go around there? I wonder if there's anything else on the farm he welded that could be compared to it. They said he doesn't normally weld. It's the farm hands who weld. There's a lot of rules surrounding pressurized tanks. Exactly. And every other tank that we have seen in this building have been smooth. Of course, you have where they have been joined, but the factory seal is because it has to be secure. It has to be pressurized. It has to be tested, because it has a very dangerous gas in it. It'll eat your lungs if you inhale that gas, or it'll dry out your eyes. And that's why I'm saying for 3 years, they didn't notice this. I don't think welds are supposed to be gobbled up like that above the metal either. It means the metal wasn't heated enough for the weld to join properly. Mustang, again, I'll defer to Holly Mac, Mildly Pretty, and of course, now we have a real union man. He can probably weld this with blindfolds on and using only a cigarette lighter and a can of Britney Spears perfume. Maybe that end was to the next to the wall, so more hidden. I think it was turned that way, yes. But we're talking about a police investigation. They should be everywhere. They should look at everything. And if you just say, okay, he was driving around with this tank, let's go to the tank barn and see what the hell's happening. And you see this, why isn't your first thought, one of these things are not like the other? Because this, to me, just screams a hatchet job. At least that's how I see it. And I don't know shit about welding, but I know it's not supposed to be runny like this, and it's not supposed to be bubbling up like that. Of course, normally you would have grounded it down later and made it smooth. I've only done a little of that type welding, but it would be better than that. I specialized in what's called hot air welding. I weld roof membranes like PVC, TPO, KEE, Hypolyon, etc. It's not that bad of a weld. We're talking about a pressurized gas tank. It's a really bad weld. Anhydrous causes freezing. There is a man in Minnesota that tried stealing some of his habit, froze his leg, and his leg broke off. Didn't feel pain until after it wore off and he bled. Yeah, it's going to come out really cold if you get it directly on it. But you will also, the gas will eat your lungs because it's a caustic gas. So it'll look for water that it can join to turn into a liquid form, because that's what it wants to be in. That's its stable form. And that's why it'll eat your lung tissue. Yeah, and I like the sloppy paint job as well. Why, again, if you see this shitty paint job, it stands out like a sore thumb. I don't know. This is more hidden. I could understand if you didn't see this part, if you're just walking past. This is on the inside. Come on. And here you can see he didn't fill the gaps at all. This is from the inside, and there's a clear gap that has just been welded up. And this is where they claim that he attached the chain to it on the top of it. And this is how it looked after they cut it open again. But let's listen to what the judge said about tomorrow, because I might have gotten it wrong.
And is presented in court. You must not consider anything you learned from seeing the tank and properties that was not covered by the evidence admitted in the trial. We will be conducting these site visits tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Please arrive at your normal meeting spot around 10 a.m. We will provide transportation to the premises and returning to the judicial building, and we will also provide you with a lunch. The properties are likely to be muddy, and it's my understanding we may get some snow tonight, so you may want to wear boots and casual clothing to meet. Last witness for today. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Shortly, tomorrow will be a little bit different than normal. We are going to be doing a view of some premises and some other things. It's also a Wednesday, so I have my Wednesday morning docket that will go until 10:30. So we'll try to get started at 10:30, but we won't be doing anything in the courtroom. We get to go on a field trip. So I do have an instruction to read to you anything in the courtroom that will go until 10:30. So we'll try to get started at 10:30, but we won't be doing anything in the courtroom. We get to go on.
Yes, you're right. We won't be doing anything in the courtroom. And if he is providing them with a lunch, I think you are all right. I am, as always, wrong that we will be doing a field trip tomorrow. They will be on the farm all day. I will keep an eye on it. If anything happens, I will, of course, go live and cover that. But to me, it seems, after listening to it again, that it was a full day field trip. So we might get a day off tomorrow, and we can hang out and do nothing and just play around. It's sometimes we should do that as well, because hey, it's yeah, I don't know. I'll probably go live and talk about nothing for a bit and just hang out. But if there's no trial, but again, I will keep an eye on if anything pops, because maybe they're just a little bit wrong about it. I don't know. I don't know if that is the case or whatever. Might be the case, but yeah. Let's put a pin in it and see what happens. Baker can tell us how his OnlyFeed page is going. I will be that's what I'm gonna do tomorrow. I'll be taking a lot of pictures for my OnlyFeed. I watch you on my TV, that's why I don't chat much. Well, we're glad that you are watching us, and we're always happy to see you in chat. hopefully some good witnesses in the Corey Richards case. I haven't watched much. As I said earlier, I watched a bit of the opening statements, and then my daughters called me, and then I never really got back. It's kind of hard to focus on another trial when you're trying to sit here and listen to this trial. So I don't cross the streams. And I've heard that a lot of people are not the biggest fans of one of the defense attorneys, a male defense attorney, I think it is, who asks some really dumb questions and don't have the medical vernacular down. But they also say that they have actually raised some good questions. Apparently, they're focusing a lot on his weed gummies or something like that. But how are you going from weed gummies to the fent? And apparently, they had the ME on today, and there's no visible injuries to his liver. They have also tried to imply that he's a big drinker. That would have left some signs on the liver. Trust me, I know I was a heavy drinker. And because of those signs, I stopped drinking that much because I was having starting not liver problems, but they could tell that my liver wasn't coping really well with the amounts of alcohol I drank. So, yeah, that's, yeah. The farm is about 20 minutes away from the courthouse. Well, we'll all keep an eye on it, and if anything happens, I will go live. He was mean to the cop on the stand for no reason. They didn't check the fridge for weed gummies. Why? They claimed he had a pill problem in school. Actually quite good. We had some good witnesses today, I think. Making the statement that will make Jemima yell at me because I said, I don't see how they can keep going for 9 weeks about this because, oh my effing God, they haven't done any. Why didn't they ask the welding guy? Could she have done it from the inside? The painting job would have been a little harder, but some people are tricksy. But I'm going to send you all over to recovery. Say hi to him for me. And Jemima yells at me all the time. You grumpy. Eat a Snickers. I got 5 feet of snow. Why don't you shovel for me? Constantly. Oh, Crispy didn't like today in court. I found it interesting, and we found out we had some very knowledgeable people in chat who can talk about power tools. I like that. That's why it's great to have a smaller chat, because we see all the smart people. Well, please bring your friends. I wouldn't mind having more viewers, but still, I like it when we can do these little talks and listen to people who actually know what they're talking about instead of just sitting, guilty. Defense have still not come up with any way of him not being guilty. They're going to attack some timeline, but we haven't heard how. The hard part would be her holding her breath while she welded. Well, she was so crafty, she hit herself over the noggin and then strangulated herself. I just got home after New England storm. Florida is much better this time of year, except they have snakes, alligators, and Florida man. Without a giant sucking vortex, it's great. I don't know what we're talking about. Oh, that's why you should join the Discord, so you can see Steven showing off his impressive skills. And when we're talking about Florida, A Florida man is behind bars after allegedly admitting to pew-pewing and unaliving his wife following an argument over a cruise. Police said William Simmons told them he loved old Nancy and would rather live in prison than deal with her. Yeah, and they still haven't said anything because they have had farmhands who was on the farm that day. They have family members who've been on farm that day, and they haven't asked any questions saying, but hey, did you see someone there? Or could someone have been there that you didn't know about? Or something like that. There have been none of these questions to kind of try and imply a third-party culprit. So we are on day 7, and I don't know where they're going. And normally at this time, because of their questioning, we would have an idea that they're going to blame it on the dog. But we don't know nothing. That dude is very Orlando. Oh, Steven did a bad job, and now he's trying to blame someone else. Sure, Jen. Sure. Well, that's one type of retirement plan. Yeah. I'm not gonna. Well, Zach made me do it, so I'm going to show you as well. Kentucky man covered in fur arrested after allegedly being caught having smacks with deer. He looks like someone who would have smacks with a deer. Henderson, Kentucky. A Kentucky man was arrested after he allegedly engaged in sexual activity with a deceased animal. Alan Osborne was taken into custody after he allegedly engaged in sexual relations with a dead deer. Oh dear. When speaking with the outlet, the Central City Police Department said that a man was driving through an area in Muhlenberg County when he noticed a man allegedly engaging in sexual intercourse with a deer on the side of the road. The witness called 911. I hate these busybodies. What a Karen. When law enforcement arrived on the scene, they reportedly found Osborne covered in deer fur and blood, according to the outlet. Osborne was arrested and charged with the following per WEAT's report: sexual crimes against animals. He was taken to Muhlenberg County Detention Center where he is being held. There's a better way to deal with your team losing, Alan. Yeah. Yes, court is done for today. It's 4:15. They normally stop at around 4. And they're going on a field trip tomorrow, so there might not be any court date tomorrow. But I'm going to jump off. I'm not sure I will have time to make a night show tonight because I have a few things that I need to get to early tomorrow, so it'll be on a perhaps basis. He was just tenderizing the meat. Bad baker. Bad.
What exhibit are you referring to?
I'm going to make this 100, Your Honor.
All right.
100.
100.
Because it is 100%
100%.
correct.
Objection, Your Honor. So you literally built a cannon?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All right, I'm in love.
Go back. Please do that again. Oh.